Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rundown, where we talk about 2A news and conservative views. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. And well, folks, today we've got our boy Mikey back. Well, at least we had him back, and then we lost him, but I think he is back. And now all I'm getting is, there he goes. Mikey, how we doing, sir?
Yeah, hey, that last little disconnect, that was just me messing with you.
He waited till we went live. I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna mess with dude. I'm
He
like,
said,
really?
man, it's so good. So good to have you back. All right, we're about to go live. And I went, click.
Bro, man has jokes.
Yeah, jokes, man. Jokes.
You know, sir, I got to be
Well,
honest
Craig,
with you, man. I was getting to the point, man, where I was starting to feel like I was, like having mental issues because I'm sitting here just like talking to myself, and I'm like, I need Mikey back.
well, we made it happen. All here, mostly one piece. All good
Mostly
to go.
one piece.
Good to go.
Well, it's good to have you back. How was your time away?
You worked the entire time. It was one of them 12, 18-hour days kind of things, outdoors most of the time. So it was a long 2 weeks, sir. A long 2 weeks.
Right now,
Say that.
were you in Florida?
Yes, all throughout Florida. All
Oh my
throughout
God,
Florida.
that I will just say outdoors most of the time for like 12 to 18 hours in Florida could not have been fun all the time anyway.
It was brutally hot, but as somebody who worked many, many times in and outdoors, I know how to acclimate and spent 2 weeks ahead of time getting used to the heat. I'll tell you what, the day before I left, I did my last little. You go outside, you spend 2-3 hours doing some kind of labor, even if it's just moderate labor in the sun and in the heat. And the last day, I was outside cutting the grass at 2 in the afternoon. I'm like, well, this is not going to work. It's like 80 degrees out here. I need it to be hotter, and I brought up the temperature, and it was 98. So at that point, you're like, okay, I'm acclimated. I'm acclimated to the
There you
heat.
go. I have been. I officially can work in this weather, and I just realized. Okay, so for those of you who were watching Rumble, you probably are just now. For those of you watching Rumble, you're probably just now getting the feed. I realized that I had not turned on the feed for Rumble. My bad. Sorry, y'all over there at Rumble. You haven't really missed anything except Mike explaining how he acclimated himself to the weather there in Florida. Anyway, sir,
Well, listen,
dude, lots happened
I'm
since we
acclimated
last talked on the show.
I'm acclimated to regular weather. I just wasn't acclimated to being outdoors in Florida weather.
There you go. Okay. So first they tried to take out our nominee, and then the Democrats took out their nominee.
Yeah,
Big things are happening in the news.
yeah. Listen, just coincidence, purely coincidence that I wasn't here for both. It was
Purely coincidence.
purely coincidental. Purely coincidental.
Well, Mike, let's jump. We're going to go ahead and jump into the news here real quick. But before we do, you know how we do it. We got to give that quick shout out to our sponsors.
That's right. Let's say hello to our good friends at Hitman Industries. That's hitmanindustries.net. You got yourself an AR in the past 5 years. You probably got one of their barrels and don't even know it. Now you can buy from them factory direct at hitmanindustries.net. California Republican Assembly fighting a good fight behind enemy lines. Now you could take part in California's future today. If you want the best in tactical holsters on the market, get on over to Hog Holsters. That's HAWG holsters.com, HAG holsters.com, hogholsters.com, because friends don't let friends carry crappy holsters. DEI, Secret Service agent. uh, if if you want the best in field gear, the best in tactical gear on the market, get on over to uscombatgear.com where you can get everything except the gun.
That's right, folks. These are our sponsors. They bring us to you so that we can bring you to them. Do us a favor. do them a favor, do yourself a favor. Visit their websites. You can reach them by going to the links in the description of this program. Go there, check them out, spend some money with them. Make sure you tell them it was the guys over at the Rundown that sent you. Now, Mike, I wanted to hit you up just real quick about the whole. I felt really bad for that one Secret Service agent who just looked like they could not get their gun in their holster. But I remember thinking, in every firearms trainer I've ever talked to said, there's never a reason to rush to reholster your weapon. And I'm thinking to myself, why was she in such a rush to try and reholster your weapon? I mean, isn't that when a lot of accidents happen, when people trying to rush to get their gun back in their holster, and they wind up shooting themselves in the leg?
Yeah, let's say, listen, I don't know that, because I come from a different training world than you do. Saying there's no rush to get a gun back in a holster may not be accurate, because you might need to go hands-on in her line of work or in different lines of work. But it should be the same as your shooting. It should be, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. It should be the same way with putting the holster away. No, trying to jam it in, looking in the wrong spots. It's clear that she has never practiced taking that gun and putting it out of that holster while wearing that uniform, while wearing that vest. It's one thing to do it on the range. It's another to do it while you're wearing what it is. And you could see what happened. Her holster had moved to the rear because the front of her vest was pushing against the holster. So she'd never practiced that before. And it looked like a pretty crappy holster to me. All right. It looked like the kind when you used to buy a Glock Gen 1 and Gen 2, they used to kick in a $4 plastic holster. And that's what it looked like to me.
Hey, get off my Glock Gen 1.
Yeah. Oh, I love the Gen 1. Just not the holsters.
Just not the holsters. There you go. Yeah. Well, did you notice though how when the convention started that all of a sudden the makeup of the team of the protection detail changed significantly?
Yes, I did. Because Craig, inside the convention hall, they had slightly sloped platforms, and they had to get taller people in there.
Yeah, I think the DEI program was put on suspension at that point. I just with that whole thing, Mike, I couldn't believe. I'm like, how do you not have better protection for not just the former president, but the leading candidate to be the next president? When you already know that you already know there have been rumblings that Iran was looking to do something. I for the life of me, I cannot figure out how someone has not been fired yet.
You say that's all rhetorical, those questions, right? That you're asking me? I mean, that's right.
Yeah.
You can't figure out how the Biden administration didn't provide Trump with more security. You can't figure that one out? All right, okay.
Well, I guess I saw one meme. Now I got to find it. It says, in case of emergency, break glass. And under the glass, it said, take out the opponent's candidate. And when that didn't work, it said, the one next to it said, take out your candidate. And that's the one that got broken.
Yep. There you go.
Oh, the world in which we live. Anyway, folks, let's go ahead and get into the news today. As I told you, big news. Unless you've been sleeping under a rock or something, you know that President Biden is now no longer running for president. He has actually been removed from the ticket. And when I say removed, I'm being very specific. A lot of people are like, and you'll see the mainstream media, the way they're pointing to it is, they're talking about it like, oh my, he was just doing such an honorable thing and deciding not to run. And the reality is, they basically, when Nancy Pelosi met with him, and that's what's kind of here in terms of this CNN story kind of points it out. Nancy Pelosi went and met with him and basically said, look, you either get out or we're going to make you look so bad. Everyone's going to keep pulling away from you. And last week was just, elected after elected coming out and saying, we don't, Joe, you need to get out. Staff member after staff member leaking him, things about him losing his mind, forgetting stuff, all of these various different things. And they basically, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but they forced him out of the race. And the thing that really frustrates me about the way the media is covering it, they're all acting like, oh, he's done this big sacrificial thing by choosing to not run. And the reality is he got run out on a rail. And also because between the historian who came and said, look, no one's ever had the negatives that you have, the poll numbers that you have, and turned around and won. And the leaders who basically, what's the word I'm looking for? He basically he was going to lose. And by doing the thing that they forced him to do at almost at political gunpoint, now all of a sudden they want to lionize him for that.
Yeah, first off, the issue of the poll numbers, that's not true. He's only down, 5 points, 10 points, they're saying, behind Trump in the worst of the polls. Truman Dewey was worse than that. And in fact, Dewey came out on the newspapers, if you recall, they thought he won, and it was actually Truman that won. So, and then you could go back just as far as Trump and Clinton and see how far apart the polls were and who actually won. So those new polls are just lies about old polls, because that's what they do with their polls. Greg, by the way, do you know anybody that's been polled ever? Anybody that's been polled?
No.
Yeah, neither do I.
Well, okay. The thing about the polls, though, Mike, is famously 90% of these polls tend to lean or favor Democrats, meaning whatever the numbers are, if you want the truth, move it slightly to the right in favor of the right, and then you probably have the actual right numbers. In this particular case, I think what they're saying is, look, you're going to have a hard time winning, especially since he was losing in so many of the battleground states.
Yeah, again, same as we saw that with Clinton and Trump when they ran together. Trump was behind everywhere, and the polls have predicted a 10 to 20% loss. So, Craig, you say, what did they do to convince him to get him to leave? I don't think they convinced him anything. I think they told him he wasn't in the race anymore. Have you seen him say it? I haven't seen him say it. I've seen some releases. I've seen some statements from the White House. I haven't seen anybody say it. But this just the same thing applies to 3 weeks ago, a month ago. The guy didn't have any idea that he was president. How many times you got to hear him screw up and say he's still a senator? The guy hasn't been there, and he hasn't been in his right mind for months, if not a couple of years now. They've been running him behind the scenes so they could stay in power. It's what they've wanted, and it's what they've had. They just realized at this point two options, and I'll let you guess which one I favor. That A, they no longer could prop him up and get him to at least seem coherent, or B, they decided he needed to go because he was not going to be the one that had a chance at winning. So they decided to remove him now so they could start working on Harris in the last 3-4 months.
Well, yeah, just to go back on that note, when you talk about them not discovering they're not able to prop him up, since you and I last talked, he has declared that he is the first black female vice president, and also that he nominated Donald Trump to be his vice president. So, which, by the way, his poll numbers shot up when before he corrected himself on the Donald Trump thing.
Yeah. Well, he's Trump. We got to give him a few more points, but yeah, this is for the course. This is you and I have been saying this. Listen, when he was going to drop out, how he was going to drop out was the only if in it. And you and I have thrown. We put out so many theories on what could happen. We've been right at least once.
We've been right at least once. That is true. And we also kind of knew that. As much as I would have loved for Gavin Newsom to be the nominee, we knew that they were going to anoint Kamala Harris. If for no other reason than they lose access to the $91 million that they had access to, because if she's not, if neither, the money was donated to Biden and Harris. If Harris is still on the ticket, she still has access to the money. If Biden's still on the ticket, he has access to the money. If neither of them are on the ticket, then neither of them have access to the money. Well, interestingly enough, that number, it was 195. For some reason, it went down to 91, and that was because I believe about $100 million worth of donors said, yeah, you're not getting our money. And now all of a sudden, the spigot has been reopened. The interesting thing about it is that she's already gone, and not only did the president come out and endorse her, but she's already collected more than half of the Democrat delegates needed to clinch the nomination. What's interesting about this is people didn't elect her. People didn't vote for her to be the nominee. People haven't had a say on any of the folks who could potentially be on the ballot or should be on the ballot. They are doing the best they can to lock this thing up and not give the people, the registered Democrats, a say as to who the nominee is going to be, which is kind of interesting for the party that keeps saying that Trump is going to be the end of democracy. They seem to be all about not letting the people select who their nominee is going to be.
Well, that's their idea of social democracy. Remember, Greg. So here's what I think happens. Obviously, they've got her in there. Nobody has named her as the nominee, right? We can't name her as the nominee until after they have their convention. I think they leave her where she is. You remember, there's the absence of many people calling her the heir apparent. The only one that's really done it is Joe Biden, by the way, and we know that his brain's working right. So for him to say it, what does it really mean? I think they prop her up and keep her moving forward as the heir apparent until the convention floor. Now, Craig, if I'm reading it correctly, and I know you're right on who gets the money at this point, but if we get to the convention and that first round of the convention comes around and she's not nominated, who owns that money gets a little more blurry, and I think that's what they're waiting for. That's what they're waiting for, because at that point, she could come completely off the ticket, and you could have, a Newsom Shapiro ticket or something along those lines without a Harris on there, and that money be up for grabs.
Well, no, that money actually they cannot transfer that money. That money can only legally they cannot transfer that money. They cannot. That money can only be used to support a candidate Biden or a candidate Harris. That was one of the reasons why they chose her.
I guess I'll go back and double check and reread. I've been reading a little bit over the last couple of weeks. We knew this was coming around. It's and I don't remember which. Is it the first vote, second vote? My belief, from what I understand, is if the convention nominates somebody else instead of them, again, the ownership of that money becomes blurry, and there's a way to get it to them.
Yeah, I haven't read that, but it'll be interesting either way. I honestly believe that, Democrats are going to have a very, very difficult time, even though they've anointed her, because even though Biden is off the ticket, name one thing dealing with the economy, dealing with the border, dealing with crime in the streets, the top three issues. Name one area where any of the folks we're talking about would have been different from Joe Biden. They wouldn't.
No, listen, in Joe's rattled old brain, at least he's got some thoughts of things that worked at some point in the past and had ideas about how things should work. She's got none of that. She's a flat out idiot. She's never won an elected office except the one she's sitting in right now. And we all know she got there through other performances. How about that? Let's say it like that. With the previous office.
Well, she was selected because he committed to choose selecting a black woman, and my brother got mad at me because he got mad at several people because they called her a DEI selection. But when he said, "I'm going to choose a black woman," well, then what you said is she's the most qualified black woman.
Right. We went through this with the Supreme Court as well.
You can't say she's the most qualified. You can't say she's the most qualified woman.
Yeah.
You can't say that she's the most qualified person because he limited it. I didn't make her a DEI selection. Joe Biden made her a DEI selection.
Yeah. We went through this with the Supreme Court with Ketanji Jackson Brown there.
Right.
She same issue. Most qualified black woman to be on the bench. Folks, if you ever go into the hospital and they say, this is our most qualified black female surgeon and she's going to do your heart surgery, go to a different hospital. All right. You want the best surgeon, not the best qualified anything version. You want the best. You want the best.
Mike, let me be clear. If I'm going to get my refrigerator fixed and they send me the most qualified black refrigerator repairman, I'm like, no. I want the most qualified refrigerator repairman.
Yep.
Exactly. Anyway, it's. I'll tell you what though, and this isn't. There was an interesting thing though that happened along with all of this, and that is not everybody's on board with the whole anoint Kamala Harris. In fact, Barack Obama did not endorse Harris. Now, just to be clear, we don't know fully what Biden knows or doesn't know because, as Mike pointed out, we haven't heard from him. All we've gotten was a message from his campaign, and the initial message said nothing about endorsing Kamala Harris. And then later it came out that he was going to actually endorse or was endorsing Kamala Harris. But according to media sources, and this is once again, I have not seen that this has changed even today, but it notes here, it says here, Barack Obama doesn't endorse Kamala Harris, says Dems will pick outstanding nominee. And that was basically what he put out in his statement. He says, I have extraordinary confidence that the leaders of our party will be able to create a process from which an outstanding nominee emerges. Now, we all know that he is the Obama Messiah of the Democratic Party. And if he could run for a third term, they would put him up in a heartbeat. Yet he's not down with Harris.
No, that's why his name's not. They're supporting her. I do keep hearing the name Obama, but it's Big Mike's name. I keep hearing that might be running.
Big Mike, Big Mike might be running. Yeah. For those of you unaware of the meme, that would be Michelle Obama. Big Mike, aka Michelle Obama.
That's right, Michelle. She got some shoulders on her, bro.
That's cool.
She got some shoulders.
But Mike, this now leads to the next, in my opinion, investigation that should be taking place. So, and the big question is this: is now that she's a presidential candidate, it's time. Clearly, he is not running. Well, let me take a step back. The reason they removed him from the ticket was because they saw that it didn't look like he was going to beat Donald Trump. At least, according to them, they didn't feel like he was going to beat Donald Trump. And the reason why, and I think all of us can agree, the reason why we know he wasn't going to beat Donald Trump, because it started to become public knowledge amongst the left and the media in the debate that he was not there, that he was in the midst of significant cognitive decline. And then interview after interview, event after event after that occurred, he just did not seem to be up to the task, until eventually everyone's like, look, you got to go. You got to get off the ticket because you clearly don't have it intellectually. Well, the problem with that is that Harris, in one of her just recent statements, talked about how much time she spent with the president. Every day she spent time with him. She knew. The Bidens knew. But most importantly, the vice president, the one person responsible for invoking the 25th Amendment, knew that the president was not fit. Because if he's not fit to run for president, he's not fit to be president. My question is, Mike, when does the investigation begin into what Kamala Harris knew, and when did she know it, and who was involved in the cover-up? Because basically we have a commander-in-chief that is not there. He's not running the country. I think all of us now, those of us on the right knew it all along. But I think now everybody knows it, and the question is, who was involved in the cover up?
Yeah, and I don't know, Craig, that they are going to bring this investigation up. I think they've got a couple others that they want to, work on ahead of time. One being the Secret Service and the DHS Homeland Director after what happened to President Trump. I think there's argument to be made that he's not capable of running for office is different than he's not capable of holding office for another couple of months. If he realizes he's in the beginnings of, of cognitive dysfunction, he could argue and say, well, the doctors say it's not going to take effect for 4 years or 3 years or 2 years. He could, and that's up to medical opinion, not political opinion at that point. So I think that might be a losing battle. She, on the other hand, Harris, listen, she's known all along. You and I both know, he's gone. The brain is slipping. But she's going to stand up and lie and say the party line like everybody else does. And we're never going to be able to force her to tell the truth.
No, once again, in this particular case, and I'll just be honest, the point of calling for the investigation is purely political. And when I say purely political, it's for the very same reason, like I said, what you just said. There's no way it's going to be handled before it won't be handled before the election. It won't be handled before the new president takes office. It's not going to happen. But clearly, and I think the American public needs to stop and think about that. They need to stop and realize she knew. The media knew. All these people who are now jumping behind Kamala Harris and telling you need to vote for the Democrat, they all knew. I mean, Mike, you and I are not part of the mainstream media. We're not insiders. But we saw him fall up the stairs of Air Force One back in March of 2021. And it was all downhill from there, or up the stairs, down the upstairs?
Up the uphills downstairs.
Uphill downstairs from there?
Yeah.
We saw it. We all heard Batakata Care and My Bus Been Wiped.
Yep. But Craig, it comes down to is that people on the left don't care. They were willing to have this idiot and the group behind him running rather than having Donald Trump as president. They were okay with that. So it's never going to amount to anything. They were okay with let the party rule rather than let the individual rule.
Well, and that's what it came down to was there. Because first of all, Joe Biden, if you look at the historical Joe Biden historically has not been a left-wing activist. He's largely been pretty moderate, largely because he's always trying to play both sides against the middle in order to put some cash in his pocket. That having been said, his administration was the most liberal administration, and by the way, that includes Barack Obama's administration, the most liberal administration probably ever. And that was largely because people behind the scenes were running things, whether it was Jill Biden, whether it was his advisors, whoever it was. Clearly, he wasn't in charge. And they were okay with him continuing to not be in charge for another 4 years and us not knowing who it was, but them getting their Green New Deal, them getting their DEI and CRT, them getting their, transing of the kids. They got all that because, Joe Biden was, weekended Bidens.
That's it. Exactly right.
All right, folks. Well, hey, that brings us now to our parting shots. Parting shots are brought to you by Hog Holsters. Just go to hogholsters.com. That's HAWG, holsters.com. Make sure you use the discount code. It's the rundown. All caps, no spaces, one word, just like it is right up there. And get your Hog Holster on discount today. Our parting shots are all today going to come to you it's all coming from the Babylon Bee because, it's fake news that you can count on, and we can always count on it to bring us some funny stuff. We're going to start off here.
So I'm just saying.
What'd you say?
I did send you some, so it's up to you.
I will be looking at it as we discuss these. So Biden announces. Oh wait, here we go. So first of all, Biden was fighting, and by the way, Mike, I still remember 10 minutes. 10 minutes before it hit on Twitter that he put out his announcement, Biden was still fighting, saying, "I'm in this race. I'm in this race." In fact, Biden had announced, according to Babylon Bee, Biden announced he will host his own Stop the Steal rally.
Oh, there we go. Stop the steal. Stop the steal.
Yeah, because you know who they were stealing it from, right?
Yes, from Kamala.
Exactly. But the folks that he was worried about, really though, the real power brokers behind it, well, we know that it was Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, because once again, according to the Babylon Bee, Democratic Party leaders vow to save democracy by overruling voters and staging a coup.
But by the way, Craig, how would you like to be the fly on the wall in that meeting between Pelosi and Biden? I see that as like when kids drop their grandparents off at senior daycare and they go in the corner and they play with blocks, tapioca, and then the kids go over and make all the decisions. You know the two of them were in the room together trying to figure out who each other was.
Well, I'll say this, Nancy Pelosi is sure. I'll put it to you this way. I'll bet you she put it on him. I'll bet you she made it real clear. Look, I'm going to politically pummel you.
Only thing she put on him, Greg, was a couple of spilled mojitos. That's it.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, and with that, just so you know, it turns out that Biden did what was probably the most popular move of his presidency. And it says, in most popular move of presidency, Biden quits. And I think, he quit the race. But that probably, I think that arguably that's true. It probably was the most popular thing he's done in his presidency.
Yeah, and I don't know if you could see it at the bottom of the picture there. There's a Secret Service quote that says, "Where's he going now?"
Where's he going now? Just wandering on the tarmac.
Just wandering around.
And just so you know,
airplane.
Those folks who were there on January 6th, well, they got a chance to see what a real insurrection looks like as Dems pull off successful insurrection.
Yeah. Hey, there's sweat pants boy behind him. What's going on?
Sweatpants boy. But needless to say, the one thing that Hunter Biden had to decide was Hunter Biden. The first thing he did when the announcement came out, he said, "Sorry, no refunds." Says Hunter Biden to all the foreign governments that sent him bribes.
That's it. No refunds.
Yeah. Good stuff. Let me move this over to here. Hold on. I'm trying to pull this up so that I can pull up the ones that Mikey sent me. Come on. Get in there. There you go. No. Gotta love technology. There we go. Now, where'd he go?
Technology.
Deck the halls with boughs of holly. Come on. There we go. Now I'm set. Apologize about that, folks. All right, so here's the first one that Mike sent over. So you got Trump versus the bullet, and you've got Biden versus stairs.
There you go. We're just making the quotes. Going uphill, downhill, upstairs.
Uphill, downhill. Oh, wrong way. Let's go back the other way.
Yeah. Low. I've already heard that photo right there is likely Pulitzer Prize winning photo of the year.
Oh, yeah, it is. And then here you've got Trump with all these arrows. He's got his shield up. It says DOJ, FBI, rhinos, IRS, mainstream media, Democrats. And he's got we the people, and you are here. He's up there. He's protecting us. They should have gave him a bloody ear though.
Still taking shots at him.
Still taking shots. Kamala Harris's motorcade. Okay.
There it is.
You get point. He got points for being tasteless. Although Oscar Mayer isn't necessarily tasteless.
Well, the way she tastes them. Yeah.
All right, folks. Well, hey, that's going to be about it for today's program. But you know how we always got to finish it. We always finish it with a quick shout out to our sponsors. So take it away, Mikey.
Hitman Industries, hitmanindustries.net. Now you can get rifle and pistol caliber barrels at any length you desire for your next AR rifle or pistol build. Check them out at hitmanindustries.net. California Republican Assembly, fighting that good fight behind enemy lines. Now you can take part in California's future today. And if you need tactical gear, field gear, web gear, whatever it is, you can get everything except the gun at uscombatgear.com.
Hey, Mike, just before we go, I wanted to note Patrick Collins from the Gun Foodie chimed in. He made sure to point out that her holster, the Secret Service guard, security person, definitely was not a hog holster.
Definitely not a hog. Definitely not a hog. Friends don't let friends carry crappy holsters, and that's what that holster was. Yeah.
There you go. All right, folks. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for liking and sharing the program and encouraging your friends to do the same. We will be back tomorrow on Taco Tuesday. Till then, y'all have fun, stay safe, and if you get a chance, how about you send a few downrange? I'll alert you later.